Yeah, as Christoph already said, we are from Web Essentials, we're a social business in Phnom Penh, and we basically provide agile teams to companies overseas, mainly tech companies, and one of our specialities is web application development and deployment and infrastructure automation. Yeah, I think we have introduced us already, so we continue. So this talk is related to a system that we built for Swisscom. Swisscom is the largest telco ISP in Switzerland, with over 27,000 employees. And we are working with the Swisscom Games event management team. We titled the talk the event beast because an event can be very unfriendly to the organizers. It's a constant run against hard deadlines, because often things are set, the event date is set. For bigger events, the marketing slots have been reserved. The registration period is set, so it's a run against those deadlines to be ready with your event organization. Also, there are many different areas that event management needs to cover. Like, for example, the participants. But also scheduling the talks, like today and tomorrow, for example, with 2 tracks. But it can be totally different scheduling. It can be multi-day conference. It can be a short course. It can be repeating course. So it can have very different aspects. There can be rules. For example, at this event, we have the rule: you can only attend a talk from the tech track or from the bits track at the same time. But you cannot attend both at the same time. There can be other rules, like you're only allowed to attend 3 talks with a specific ticket. There can also be for teams, when you have teams. In sports, for example, there can be a rule that there needs to be at least 1 female in the team, or the team has a specific size. Additionally to the event, you may offer services, like hotel, and these services also need to be managed. And then there is reporting and finances that are very important, especially for sponsors, but also to gain insight in the impact the event has, especially when you have a mandate to organize the event over and over again. And if you're, for example, paid by participant. The event piece can become even bigger, exponential, when we have to organize multiple events with multiple participant groups, with very multiple scheduling. For example, just imagine running a school schedule with all the impacts, repeating courses, external visitors coming to the school, and many other scheduling issues. There can also be lots of rules. There can be rules for safety, rules that the management is imposing, and so on. And it's different for every event. Services can become very complicated, and also the whole reporting and financing, when you have to report multiple budgets, or when you work in a big corporation where you have a lot of cost centers and you need to report exactly to the right ones. If, for example, within a corporation, you can order tickets and you can indicate the cost center that is paying for the ticket, that because you're an account manager and you're inviting a client, and you have lots of different account managers and they have all their own cost centers, and all this needs to be somehow handled and reported properly. So I think the ideal thing is to build a system to tame the beast. But it must be flexible, because we want to use it for any type of beast, for any type of event. It's almost a bit like a rectangle or a square or a polygon or anything needs to fit into the system. And I found a very interesting quote that Rasmus made when he was talking about NEOS development, that he said, we're building something for the future of which we don't know how it's going to be used. We do not exactly know what is going to be in there and how people are going to use it. And the same is true for our case. We do not know what size of event is actually going to be managed with this tool. It must be very flexible. It must be we can use it for a one-day course, or we can use it for Olympics, for example, and everything should fit in there. So the approach basically is a structured event data model. We have different nodes. So you see an event node with sub-events, and each instance of the event is an operation. And we can, this is just only one example, but with a model like this you can build almost any event, and not many restrictions. To each event you can have a service or multiple services, and each service can again have operations. Each operation has a date or multiple dates. So this is the structure that we use. And depending on the event administrator or project manager of that event can set up the event in the system. Well, how do we implement something like this? Now, this was the big question that we had to answer about 1.5 to 2 years ago. And lucky for us, they're open source tools. And other people had these problems before. And it's one of the great occasions for me where I can mention how much the open source community really helped us in this initial phase. Not only in this initial phase, the community helped us throughout the project, still helping us, but the community, as also Kira mentioned this morning, is such a great opportunity to access resources, to ask other people, how did you implement this or a similar case, or how would you do this? Do you know someone who did this before? So for us, the flow and Typo3 were the tools that we knew, and we at that time was only one community. Now it's two. So we have a Typo3 community and we have a NEOS community basically. Nevertheless, the people remain the same, and so at first we basically just started calling different people and asked them, did you have something similar like this before? How would you solve it? And what we found out is that some of these business requirements that we have, other people have before, and there are existing libraries or there are existing concepts or ideas for how to solve them. And they are freely available. So they're not somewhere hidden, or most of them are actually on GitHub already. We're going to show you some features. Of Kyme, and we're going to show also how we implemented those. There is a big process. This is just only part of it, and I don't want to go through all the details. But for example, here it starts with just creating the event. So creating an event, and then in this specific tool, we're also using creating a ticket or tickets that we can use up to when it comes here. You know, this one is internal, ZDreicom internal, where the employee can buy a ticket with account managers, with administrators, with project managers, and so on. So we want to look at one at the beginning, just for creating the event. And this is an enterprise system. So whenever we talk enterprise, especially in Europe, but I would say in Cambodia too, it must be multi-language, because users want to see the information in their language. So we're actually looking how can this be solved with Type 3 Flow, the framework that we were using. And Flow is based on doctrine, as a doctrine layer. So this means it's a persistent layer, so we can, the persistence layer is between the database and the framework. And so we don't need to take care of how the framework is saving something in the database. We're just using the persistence layer in between. And luckily, there is a module called, or a library called Translatable. And so we were able to just install that, and have then been able to use multilingual objects, or objects that can have fields that are multilingual. And in the back end, this is how it looks like. We kept it fairly simple because we implement this project in an agile approach. So we want to see quick results within a week or within 2 weeks for iterations. And here we can see what we did is, in the interface, we just made tabs. So this field exists 4 times. And and we can just, this is the way it's just entered here. We can, for every field we use, for every multilingual field we use tabs, and we can switch all the tabs at once if we just want to control a look through if everything is okay, or if we want to enter a language specifically. So this is just the approach that we used here. Obviously we could make that much more sophisticated. When you look at NEOS, which is the CMS that builds on Flow, they have very sophisticated translation module in there, but for us that did it. But most important was that we do not need to take care for how this is saved in the database. We have a package in between that does this for us. Another thing is we need fixed and flexible feeds. So every event has some fixed feeds, but also if you want to make this or implement this for lots of event cases, you need to have also flexible feeds. And so we decided to use not only MySQL as a database, but we also use CouchDB. So we're using 2 databases. We're using CouchDB as a key value store for the flexible data, and we're using MySQL for the fixed feeds. And that works very well, because for Flow there is actually a CouchDB package that we can install, and then we can use CouchDB, and Doctrine is just handling, again, the persistence. Besides that, we fix the flexible feeds for an event, obviously, but we also need flexibility on the event subscription.
and on the user record. So if a participant registers for one event, we may ask the participant for that information, and for another event this information. So we need to have all the registration flexible too. And actually it's also a package called Form Builder package, where an event administrator can just build his own form. It doesn't look as nice as Google Forms, for example, if you have used that before, but the concept is similar. And it is free, and you can install it and adapt it. And one of the very nice things that we found out is that the CouchDB package needs information for what fields we store in CouchDB, because it's always flexible. We need to say, okay, what are the fields actually that are in there? Because CouchDB will store anything for you, but you need to know when you get the data out in what structure this is. And the structure is saved in the YAML file, and the form builder uses the exact same structure as well. So we can actually let the editor build the form. We can let the editor save that form. So when it's saved in the YAML file. We can use the same YAML file to actually tell CouchDB how the data needs to be, in what structure the data is when it stores the data. When we retrieve it, we can basically use the same structure to structure the data again. And this CouchDB package will also create a flexible data model for us that we then can access in Flow. I mean, flexible class, flexible attributes, and so on. That's pretty cool. And this is how it looks like, just to give you a bit of an impression. So basically, this is the structure of the form, and these are the elements where we work, and then we can insert additional elements here. We can create our own elements, and then we have inspector here, where we can say, for example, something like, okay, what is the label of a field? And then we have validators here too that we can choose for the form. So we can say how this validates, and all of this is customizable. So it's a really nice package. If you want to use it, just search for Form Builder for Flow, and you will find it. And then also for events in the backend, you can add additional fields. Here we just create a simple interface like this. You can just insert the label and then choose the type of field that you want. Yeah, so that's the flexible fields, but also we need flexible rules. As I said before, like we can have teams, for example, and for teams we have a rule that needs to be at least one female in the team, or needs to be at least 5 people, or there can be rules, like I said, that you can attend so and so many workshops, and so on. And how do you make sure that this is kept flexible? I mean, when I think rules, I just think a lot of if conditions. And when we have many rules, it looks to me like we have many if conditions. It's never ending. And how can you keep this in a way organized that so there is a nice thing in Flow. There is an embedded expression language called EEL, and this is how it works. So you can actually write, maybe someone who knows the eval function in JavaScript. There is a function called eval. Yeah. Right, and what does it do?
It's not good.
It's not good. Yeah.
You can just put some code as a string and then it will be interpreted.
Exactly. So it's a small interpreter that you can just use in JavaScript to run about anything. Now, because JavaScript you can modify anything, it's not so good to do that there. But in a safe environment, basically means that you can write your own code outside of the code. And this here is used for conditions like here, for example. Okay, this is how many participants already registered, and then your booking should be less than 20 for example. Obviously, this will be a variable that is, but I put it just here a fix. And this is just an expression that we can write like this, and then we can ask the evaluator to just evaluate the expression. Okay, so like this, you can basically write any type of rule afterwards. I mean, once the code is already there, you can still add rules to it. So even if your client is a technical person or has a technical team, they can actually add rules by themselves very easily by just adding more of these expressions. They just need to know how the objects are structured in the data model. And even if there is kind of a flexible object, you know, that you only have for this specific event, you know, you can still write the yield rule for it. So it's very powerful, and that's how it looks in the backend. I mean, we just can add rules here, like in, for example, Outlook, when you make an email rule, or any other email program, you just add a new one, and then just, this is just what you said. And yeah, so this is how we implement rules, and it works pretty well. And it's really nice that you can go and that you know, like, it's also somehow encapsulated. We want to make everything a bit easier to handle, so we want to try to build it in different building blocks. But this really helps. Also for notifications, goes in a similar direction, because for notifications, I'm using signals and slots. So you can actually emit a signal, and then you can have a slot where you capture that anywhere in the code, and you can do something with it, like send an email, or we can just emit something like description has changed, and then we can say, okay, good, or something else like booking has been created, and then so this is the signal that I set in the code, and then I can create slots where I basically choose what is the communication channel that I want to use, and what is the recipient type, and what template are you going to use, and then whenever that signal is emitted, then the system will just see, is there a slot that wants to receive it? If there is a slot there, it will just send out, for example, the email or SMS, or we can create other slots. For example, one function for Swisscom was that they want to see that in the intranet. So we built the intranet connector, and then it just sends a notification to the intranet. Also big data. I mean, we will show you some use cases afterwards. So one use case was to use this for all Swisscom employees for the Swisscom games, and there's over there's about 27,000 users. And when you have 27,000 users, you cannot just load the list view. Well, you can, but especially if you want to see a lot in that view, and you have a lot of dependencies in the object, everything gets quite slow. So what we used is Elasticsearch. Luckily, that also hooks very well on Doctrine. And so we do index views that we want, that we use often. So we actually don't load the data model. We don't load the data from the database into the data model and display it, but we just use the search index from Elasticsearch to display it, and it's very fast. And then also what we use is a New Relic to check the speed of the website. This is a service that you can use, and it will tell you your slowest requests, basically. And then you can actually also drill down. You can see why this request is slow. You can go and check every function. And then we looked at slow requests, and we replaced those slow requests with Elasticsearch results. Basically, okay, this is a slow request, for example, list view or a specific API function, and then we went there and we just didn't take the data anymore through the data model, but we just used Elasticsearch results. And yeah, So this is really, really useful because Elasticsearch is such a quick search, and because you can hook it on in Doctrine, it means that you do not need to maintain the index by yourself. Whenever something changes, Elasticsearch will know and will update the index automatically. So you don't need to take care of that part. You can just only access the data, and it's already fast because it comes from the index. And also what we do is we use continuous deployment and feature toggles. So feature toggles is a concept where we do not use branching in Git, but basically for every feature we make a toggle. So we can turn it on or we can turn it off. The advantage with this is that you always deploy. You can always deploy to the live server, even, and it's never branched. So no integration problem afterwards. You just have only one Git branch. Only one Git branch, but every new feature has a toggle. And the toggle, and then on the server, on each server instance, you say, is this feature turned on or is it turned off? So like this, we just turn off the new features on the live server, but the code is still there. But it's just not, the feature is not there, because there is a condition, should this feature be on or off, so if it is off, it will not show. This allows that you can test, especially when you have lots of data, and you want to make some tests also on the live server, for example, you could turn on a toggle on the live server for some users. And for some other users, you can turn them off, and so you can test with the data on the live server, but only for specific users. Okay, here we also have our deployment pipeline. You can see like there is a build state, this is the build, and there is a latest stage, and then there is actually more stages that I could put on the slide here. And whenever a developer checks in code to Git, this latest build will be created. You can see that then sometimes the user acceptance tests fail, and then we don't continue to the next stage. Or if it actually succeeds, then we go to the next stage and build the next stage. And we don't only do this for the app, but we do it also for the infrastructure. So the server is also built automatically with Ansible. So what it means is that we have all the server configuration in Git, and the system administrator, he just commits to Git. Jenkins will pick that up, that there is a new commit, and we start a new provisioning. So we'll build the server new automatically. So we don't need SSH key or whatever, but we only need Git access. We can commit to Git, and then the server will be provisioned. So if you have a new config, because you want a new instance or something like that, that will just be automatically built. Obviously there are some tests, so if something goes wrong, it will not build to the full extent. It will stop the build, and then you can start again, correct it, and start again. Like this, you have very transparent deployment. You do not need to, it's super easy for developers to know what is the server configuration, because there is lots of conflict sometimes between IT and developers in terms of, okay, what is actually on the server? What is the configuration on the server? What did you put there? Because it's not transparently made available. But if you have all the configuration in Git, it's really great. And we simulate the same environment in the Wagon box. We can also build that automatically, because we can build it on the server, we can also build it in the box. So then we can use that for development. Okay. So some use cases of Swisscom Games. That's Olympics at Swisscom, like an internal event for all the employees that runs every 2 years. People have to register for various sports. They could create and join teams, notify team members, have quota rules and so on. And this was all integrated in their single sign-on system and intranet. So this is the front end, where they could see like different events that they could subscribe to. And this is the back end where the events were entered. And we see it, actually a live demo after this, so maybe we will see a bit more there. Swisscom Move, which is also a program for Swisscom employees, where they can offer courses to each other. So if you're good in cooking, you can say I make a cooking class, and you can invite other Swisscom employees to join. And there are over 1,000 courses, and you can register and pay online, and you can create your own course. And it also has a payment integration. It looks like this. And then you can see which course was still available, or if one is already booked out. And we didn't build this front end. We only built the API for it in the back end. The front end was built by a different company. I think now it's demo time. So we let Chomnit demo.
Okay. So I'm sorry, my voice is not good today. I'm so sorry. So let me quickly show you the demo of the system. Okay. So here is at the back end, like Dominik just showed you that we build something like the tree that, like in here we have one event called photography, and then in here we also have a button interface that here we also implement some catch information that to make sure that when there is a lot of sub-event or service, so it will show you as a tree in here. Okay, so in here we have the overview. So here's the system that I just created. We have like the type as move, and then we have the status as active. So what I would like to show you is in here we have the rule that the Dominik just showed you at the moment, that we can have more than one rule to apply to restrict the user, like how many maximum booking that they can book the operation and so on. So like in here I have indicated the minimum bookable operation. So the maximum of 1, and then you can book the minimum of 1, and then the maximum you can book only 10. And this rule is applied to only the participant type, the move participant, and then the partner participant. So in here we also have the participant definition, which is we need to create a participant type, and then we have the form, like the form builder. Right now I cannot delete it because the event is the status is active. So I have to change the event status to class. So in here we have the form builder that we can specify, like this participant definition type, we have like so many, how many data, what are the data that we want, and for the other participant type, what the information that we want. So in here we have like the contact information in here. Here's the form that we show up. And then here is the element that we can implement the new element. We can like implement our own if there is no exist. So this is like the input field where you can select from here, and then it will show up in here. Okay. So example right now, I click on this one, and then it will show like element option. You can change the label of this one, and then you can say this one is required and not required, and you can like the identifier of the field as well. Okay, after you change everything like how you want, and then you just click save it, and then you just close it. Okay. So when you come to the participant definition, participant, here you can register the like anyone who want to join this event, so you can do the registration. So in here we have the participant list. You can do the register in here. So you just select like what is the participant definition. So you just click on that, And then let's say I want like here's the internal registration, and then the payment type is 6 cents to pay, and you can pay by your own credit card. So the next, and then you can choose the cost here, like which one you want to attend. Let's say you choose this one. And the form in here is render from the formula that I just showed you at the moment. So everything is all. So you can submit. So here the some reason and the payment is still pending that I haven't paid yet. Okay. So in here when I do the registration, you will see the option like the payment setting that I set to the set to pay. This one we implement as the setting field. That is very flexible. We can go to the event and see you will here we have the setting field in here, and now we set the payment type is 6 cents per pay, and then we have a credit card commission, and we also can set the currency. And if you want the new setting field, you just click on it, and then which one that you want, like you want the Facebook like link, then you render the event, so you want to attach your Facebook link, or you can choose like set your mail setting. So you can a lot of things that you can do with this. Okay. So the next thing is I would like to come back to the slide that I'm showing you the business front end. Okay. So the business front ends, as you see at the moment that we have many event type that, and then we have many different front end to show each different type of event. And then we also have the other front end which is built by us. That the zdreicom might provides a sponsor to a lot of events, and then they get the tickets, and then they want to sell those tickets to their employee, and then also their customer or their client as well. So they want a front end where they can, like all the employees, they can log into the system, and then they can do build their ASO account, and then they can visit the event and check and do the booking from the front. And we also have the right now we are implementing the single event site, where a user can create the event, and then they can create the one URL where there is only one event on the site, or in like the custom URL, like they want to change. They can do a lot of things like customize the background, the text color, and so on. Okay, and here's like the Disney front end, the some interface that you can show you. So you can like show the top event, like on the top, or you can switch to the calendar, and then if like check by day, like how many events that are available on each day, and then you can visit one event, and then you're interested, and then you can do booking. Okay, so now it is about the zdreicom mailer.
Okay, so zdreicom mailer is another requirement or idea that we had when we were building the system, because one thing that's important to us is we develop agile, and also
we work together. So it's a collaboration between the client and us, and we can have also we are part of developing the concept together with the client. Also, we can give input, and this tool here is something that the client said, well, if we just could only solve this problem of mailing information out to participants or even inviting people to an event. And we came up with the idea that we could build that on Neos. We could actually build a newsletter engine on Neos. Neos is a next generation content management system where you can directly work in the website. And the idea here was that you can directly work in the newsletter, and you can use some variables from your user data and set those variables in the content, and then have an engine that personalizes the newsletter and sends it out. And the variable function didn't exist yet in Neos, but that was part of the idea to develop this. And I'll show you some images of how this works. So we have actually just integrated this directly with Kime, but you can integrate it with any other system, and you can just make API requests here. And this is your user group to which you want to email to, and you can have different dimensions for different languages. And then the interface looks like this. So you have you can choose a receiver group, and you have your email template here in the middle, and you can put variables here like first name and last name. Those will show up here depending on the fields that you have, because you remember that for any event you can have many different fields. So and then we have a mail engine built on Go, which is a language that has been invented by Google that will personalize the newsletter and send it out. Okay, we also want to talk about some challenges that we had and how we solved them. So one was email testing, and we were just sending out a lot of emails, especially also from the staging system, and somehow at one point you can't handle that anymore in a clever way, especially when you have like 10 developers working on the system and you need to kind of keep, all of them are email testing. So what we did is we used Mailhog, which is a web interface. Looks a bit like this, and they will just send all emails to that service. It runs on the same server, and then you can go there. It's a web interface, and you can just see if the email was, how the email was sent out. And the client can also have access to it. So even on a staging server, so you can actually have that, and they will just fetch all the emails instead of sending them out. We just change the SMTP settings, and then Mailhog fetches the emails and displays them. So it was. That was a really good relief when we had that. New Relic support. We have one problem with Type of Free Flow, that it does not support New Relic, this performance analysis tool, to the full extent compared to other PHP frameworks. But we found some packages, and we integrated those. It was a bit of work to do that, but yeah, now it works to the extent that we need it. Another thing was to have to be in control of the change process. We want to be flexible for change. At the same time, we still want to have control over it. So what we did is we worked in phases, and we estimate every phase in epics. An epic is like a collection of user stories. Maybe we don't have every single user story, but we know about, okay, this is about what it should do. And so we use epic budgets that we make in story points. And there is a book that explains this. It's called the Agile Fixpreis. It's only in German, unfortunately. But then it actually looks a bit like this. So we have an estimate originally when we start the phase. These are all the sprints here. And we have a risk factor for every estimate. and then we track how many story points we do against that epic in every sprint, and it gives us the final, the total. We can see that we go over the estimate, like here, or actually did we go under the estimate. And we have a velocity that we calculate per team, and we can also track is the team working against the velocity that we were thinking of. If not, we can intervene, or we can find out what is the problem, and often there are very good reasons why velocity is not as high. Maybe there was an issue of unforeseen problem, or it can be other things. Client satisfaction is also important. How do we measure it? We ask the client to give us a grade according to the Swiss school system. So 1 is very bad, 6 is very good. 4 is sufficient, 5 is good. So here we actually have nice client satisfaction. We can actually see we have 2 grades. So the PO always gives a grade and the client gives a grade. And the PO can say, well, actually I disagree with the client, the team worked actually a bit better. That's the case here. Or no, actually disagree with the client, the team didn't actually work that good. So we use that to just measure what the client thinks in every sprint. Yeah. So that's it. For us, it was important to bring a use case to this conference to just show what is feasible with open source, what is feasible with Flow as a framework, and Neos in this case, and how the T3 community, or community in general, Neos community, was important to us and was a big success factor in implementation of the system. And yeah. Do we have time for questions?
1 or 2 questions.
1 or 2 questions. If you have any questions. If not, then we'll be here. And please approach us, or if you would like to have another demo or interested in a specific feature, or how to get started, or where to find the libraries. Even if after this conference you think back and say, oh, he talked about this eel, there is a video that Sven is producing from the talks, and so you can watch the video, or you can just drop us an email or write to us on Twitter, and we're happy to help you locate the package or share some of the insights, because also for us, community was important. So we do not only want to receive or only be on the receiving end, we also want to give. So this is the start here, and if you need more information, then you're just more than welcome to ask us.